it is amazing to come here and see the amount of people here. It's insane. This seems to have become the world, the largest design event. 3 recently completed projects and one that is about to complete very, very soon. The first one is Aria Hotel, which is a small resort hotel designed in Nashik, the wine country of India. So it's a very linear plot, very small linear plot with a contour difference of 16 meters from the bottom till the top. And towards the northern side, it faces a beautiful lake, and towards the south, it faces hills. So the challenge here was that in this narrow site, how do you give every single room a view of those beautiful surroundings which are only towards the back and the front? Otherwise, by nature, one would do a resort hotel in just ground plus 1 or ground plus 2 maximum. But in this case, because we had to give view to every single room, it was intentionally built as 4 levels high above the main public areas. So the entire initial planning was done based on the section of the site, where there is a 16-meter contour difference from the lower side on the northern side to the higher side on the southern side. And also this section allows one to totally demarcate the spaces for the banqueting, because we call it banqueting in India, but actually it's to cater to the great Indian marriage, right? So this is a banqueting facility of 8,000 square feet, which caters to marriages with 2,000 people at a time. So the banqueting was kept at the lowest level with direct access from the main road and opening into a really large garden from where you can see the lake beyond. The back of the house is just beyond that, and then there is parking facilities. And then as one climbs up the natural contours of the site from the right hand side, you enter the entrance and the restaurant lobby at plus 6 meters. These are all natural contours. So actually not a single spade of soil was taken out of this site or into this site during construction. And then there are 4 levels of rooms, which again step back. So at every point you have these large open terrace spaces overlooking the lake, whether it's a banquet, whether it's a restaurant, or whether it's the rooms. And then finally, what this design achieves is 60% of landscape open space within the site on natural earth as well as in the form of terraces as the building steps back. So this gives you a very clear idea of how this was done. The banqueting is a good 150 feet behind from the main road. It gives you a large garden space which is used for all the functions, beyond which the restaurant and the lobby space again step back by another 80 feet, giving a large open space, and then the rooms are further stepped back. So at every point, there are these really large terraces that overlook the lake in the northern side. And then to create this organic way, we've twisted all the balconies to get different views, angles of the lake, which is at 180-degree across the side. And these are interspersed with an open to sky atrium space, which facilitates natural ventilation throughout this hotel. So more than 50% of the hotel is naturally ventilated, and of course 100% is naturally lit. So the energy efficiency of the building is really high. So I'll take you through the floor plans. This is the ground level where there's this large banquet hall, and simultaneously you can see with the plan the photograph of the identical same space at the same floor. And then as one climbs up on the right hand side, you enter the hotel through the natural slope, which is plus 6 meters, to 3, which is the entrance lobby, and 2, which is the restaurant and bar opening up towards the garden on the outer side, and beyond which there is a spa at the ground level, and each one of these spaces is opening up to the outside to the terraces, and then the rooms are organically arranged in 4 clusters, purposely done in this way that derives from the organic nature of Indian cities. So as opposed to most hotel buildings which are very rectilinear in shape, This one takes a cue from the organic streets and steps back and forth, creating a different identity to each one of these blocks, as well as creating different identities within the hotel when one goes to the rooms. It's totally a 60-room hotel. So that's the room level. All the corridors are naturally ventilated. And these are the atriums which have natural ventilation on the sides of the top, and the glass covering is covered with solar panels on the top to generate energy. And this is a detailed cross section showing how there is green space at every single level. And these are the sectional elevations showing how the building corresponds to the contours at the different heights. The rooms are really simple, large, opening into larger balconies outside, and this again was a challenge, but it was a nice client who agreed to create these large outdoor spaces. So each one of these balconies is actually 8 feet wide and it's 15 feet long. So we want people to go out and experience this hotel from the outdoors because the views are amazing in every single direction. And this is actually what is happening in this hotel. All the lower level walls are created in the natural black basalt stone available in Nashik city, beyond which the hotel blocks only are created in concrete in volumes that are stacked and inclined at different levels. So this is the banqueting level, and this is the banquet, which is 6.5 meters high, opening up to the garden on the outside on the northern side. That's the entry level to the hotel, which is at the plus 6 meters height. And then as one drives in through the hotel, this is the driveway, and then one enters the hotel into the lobby and the restaurant spaces, which all overlook this large terrace space. And this is the lobby actually opening up towards the outside, and you can see the lake in the background. So every level of this hotel has this amazing view. So that's the large terrace space outside of the restaurant, and it's very nice to see that most people are actually using the outdoors instead of sitting indoors in this hotel, and it's been in operation since the last 2 years. So the entire restaurant opens up on these pivoted doors towards the terrace on the outside overlooking the lake. And that's the spiral connection between the lobby and the banquet. So the whole reason for designing this thing with the banqueting at that lower level with a separate access is because we all know how Indian marriages are. There is a lot of noise, there is a lot of disturbance, and we do not want that the hotel rooms get disturbed every time there is a marriage function. And thankfully so, because this hotel has been permanently booked for marriages on literally like every weekend after weekend and even through the week ever since it's opened. So here, by segregating the banquet space completely from the hotel, there is no disturbance to the hotel rooms at all. So these are all clay tiles in the atrium. So each atrium also has a different look and feel, and these are all naturally ventilated. These are clay tiles which allow natural ventilation throughout the atrium space. And this is the other side atrium, which again is skylit and naturally ventilated. That's the first level of the rooms, which overlooks a large pool which has an infinity edge overlooking the lake. And that's the south side rooms. So this is the southern side facing the hills. This was taken at peak summer, these photographs. Now this is all green. These are the rooms, very, very simple. The idea was to maximize on the feeling of openness and the feeling of the outdoors and encouraging people to spend more time outdoors than indoors. So the building is very contextual in the way it is sited on this contoured side, with the way it creates these different spaces for different functions at different levels, and sculptural simultaneously, generating 60%, as I said, mentioned earlier, of open spaces within the site, completely cross-ventilated. So 50% of the areas are naturally cross-ventilated and not air-conditioned, and 50% of the energy generation of this hotel is through solar panels. So here, this is the arrangement of how water catchment areas have been created, and all of this water is recycled, used for plantations and the gardening, as well as for flushing. And the yellow demarcates all the solar panel areas. So this is very simple thing that to do. That the open parking area is sheltered because it's very hot in the summers. So you have car shelter, but all of these are solar panel. And then the bottom strip is the kitchen of the open banquet space, the open kitchen part of the banquet space, which again has solar panels as well as the terrace top. So the solar energy generated caters to 50% of the energy requirements of the hotel. All the local stone of Nashik was used to build all these walls at the lower levels. And that is the Aria Hotel, very sculptural, simple, sited in its context, providing every room with a beautiful view of the surroundings as they are, and very, very energy efficient. This next project is a small office building in Chennai. As compared to most plots that one encounters most of the time, you always have a road either on one side or two sides, and if you're lucky, maybe 3 or 4 sides. But in this particular case, if you look at the mouth of the site, it is only 9 meters wide. So from a 9-meter entry, you are entering into this site, which is literally sandwiched in between the old part of Chennai city. This used to be the central business district of Chennai, but of course now Chennai has expanded with the OMR, and there are so many more new places. But this was a site that used to be a cinema hall called Shanti, which was very popular because it was owned by Shivaji Ganeshan, the very famous South Indian actor. And their family, along with the developer, had decided that there is the time for theaters is over, and they wanted to make a office building. So this is the site with this really narrow opening towards the main road and sandwiched between buildings on all sides. You literally have zero frontage and zero view on any side, except for, of course, the higher floors when you go. And then you come to the rules. So this is the maximum buildable area, and you have to leave that much open space as a generator. It's literally like somebody telling you, okay, this is the box, and you have to create whatever you create within this box. You can't go higher, you can't go wider, you can't go longer. So within this restriction, that's the kind of floor plate that you need to be able to consume the amount of FAR that is generated on this site. And the first thing we did was to tilt this back so that you get more frontage towards the main road, and the building is more visible, and simultaneously it creates more of an opening space when one enters the building. So it allows more visibility, and it allows easier accessibility, and at the same time it allows the offices to get some view of that main Mount Road, which it faces just slightly diagonally. So to create more circulation space at the ground level is purposely kept really small with all the public facilities, and then the offices step back and forth at the upper levels with small terraces on the northern side to create spaces where the offices can spill out. And to compensate for the lack of open space within the site, the terrace is landscaped along with solar panels. So this gives you a complete picture of how the building is. It's a really very highly restricted site. So that's the ground floor plan, where the plinth is restricted to the minimum, and it houses a cafeteria as well as a gym and the main lobby space. And then as one goes on top, the offices keep stepping back and stepping forth gradually, creating these linear terraces on the northern side, which allow every office to be able to walk out into the open. Although it is a very small space, it at least gives you that breathable open space at every level. And the entire service core is kept on the southern side. And in Chennai, this is something that is really important, because in Chennai, temperatures are in excess of 40 degrees Celsius for 8 months of the year. So this entire buffer zone that you see that is created of the service staircases, the toilets, the AHU, the elevators, makes a huge impact in terms of the amount of heat that is taken into the building. That's the rooftop with a landscape terrace and solar panels on 1/3 of the terrace. So this is a cross section. We were not allowed to create two basements here, so we had to have stacked parking. In addition, because the parking was still not sufficient, we had to provide rotary stack parking on the rear side of the building. So it was a site with a lot of restrictions. And this is how one sees the site as you enter. So you can see that the space, although it was a very, very narrow site, you have a large amount of space when you enter. And the building is shielded on the east and west with very small windows. So the main openings are only towards the northern side. So these are the linear terraces where everybody can walk out from every office space. So again, it's a very, very simple building which respects its site in terms of how the surroundings are and how one can maximize the limitations that one has, and then yet go a little beyond in creating something that is different and pertinent to that particular site and the climate of the city. Now, these are some very small details because, as I mentioned earlier, it was the actor Shivaji Ganeshan who owned this place, and the clients were very insistent that in some way we should be able to allude to the fact that this was owned by Shivaji Ganeshan. So, what we've done is just graphics. They are all his famous movies which have been cut out in the gate. They are inscribed on the granite panels of the compound wall, and then images of him from his famous movies are depicted in the entrance lobby. Small things which kind of give this whole thing that yes, there was a history to this building. These are the public facilities, and those are in a snapshot the sustainable features within this restricted site. So the service core, reducing the heat gain from the south, all north oriented offices completely constructed with fly ash bricks and solar panels on the top to generate energy for all the public space lighting, water recharge pits and circulation. So Akshaya 27 was a really small office building, only 80,000 square feet on a very restricted plot, and yet what it takes cognizance of the climate and creates something that is interesting within the limitations that were available. This is the Rajasthan school, which is actually a part of a 100-acre site that we have now completely planned, and it's all ready. So it's a housing project for Shree Cement, and the company basically makes these cement townships where they are able to mine the cement aggregate and the powder, and therefore there is actually nothing in its surroundings. So typically what happens is they look at a land where they are able to get the cement from, and they put a plant up there, and then one has to create a township that is self-sufficient in multiple ways. So in all respects, including schooling, temple, shopping, houses of different sizes, studio apartments, education, this is a self-sufficient 100-acre township. I'm not talking about the township today, it's only about the school, but it's important to understand what the context was. So the school is on the corner of the site so that it's accessible to the villagers of the nearby villages as well as the township children. So this is the site, and that's how it's located in respect of the north. So we started with a typical courtyard space to combat the high heat of Rajasthan and create something that is naturally cooled. But then looking at the kind of wedge-shaped site that it was, we decided to go beyond that basic courtyard space, split it up, open it so that it is actually open on the east and west direction, and the building is split into two parts. So it's a different take on the traditional courtyard space. And then if you look at all the brown are the spaces that don't actually need natural light. which includes the auditorium and the toilets and the service blocks. And the yellow are all the classrooms that face the northern side. So, the entire courtyard, which is open on the east and west, which creates a large sheltered space in the center, it connects both parts of the building, and all the classrooms are north oriented. And then further, because this is Rajasthan, which is one of the hottest places for 8 months of the year in India, in addition, we've done these large inclined walls which act as sun breakers. So, there is literally no east or west sun that enters any of the internal spaces. So, this is the detailed plan where the entry is from the bottom, from the southern side. So, you see number 6, number 5, these are all the auditorium spaces which do not need natural light, which are purposely kept on the southern side, and 11, 12 are all the classrooms. Now, this is split up into 2 parts. So, the bottom portion here is where the primary school is, and then the top portion is where the secondary school is, and all of this is interconnected by this open courtyard on the east and west, and it faces a really large playground on the northern side. That is the first floor plan as the building goes up, and then the second floor plan where only the southern block goes up one level. So, these are cross sections showing the volume differences, and this explains the entire school very simply, where the large auditorium space is towards the top. We have this connected corridor space with a lot of sheltered pergolas which shade the space throughout the day, and then the classrooms all facing the north with sun breakers. So, this is the central courtyard space, and it was really nice to go back and see all these children using it throughout the day. And the interesting thing is that it's constantly changing in terms of perception and light and shadows all through the day from the morning to the evening. And this has actually become the focal point for all these students and all these children who are using these schools. The entire school is designed to be non-air conditioned, yet the client insisted that the classrooms be air conditioned. But we've done the whole exercise even post the construction, and actually you don't need air conditioning simply because of the way the classrooms are oriented towards the north. There is zero heat gain from the east and west, and all these corridors are naturally cool at any time, even in the summer at peak summer days. All of it is naturally ventilated. So, this is the approach from the southern side. So, you can see how the southern side is completely blocked by all these screen walls. So, it's a very sculptural rendition where all these screen walls are blocking this heat from the south as well as the east and west. And then this is the northern side. So, in addition to these vertical inclined sun breakers for the east and west, in addition, there are further verticals in between the windows, and all of these together, when they are combined, make a huge impact in terms of the reducing the heat gain and increasing the energy efficiency of the building. So, here is the detail of the sunbreaker walls which are in terracotta color, and then the additional grey sunbreaker walls which are in between. And this is those are 3 completed projects, and this is the last project that I am showing, which is right now under construction, but most of it is already done. So, it is 90% there, the last 10% is being done as we speak. So, this is in Indore city, where we are actually doing an entire university called the Prestige University, and this is the site. It's on the Ujjain Indore road, and as opposed to most sites, this again is like the Akshaya 27 site, where there is just a narrow opening. What that does is it creates a whole lot of individual spaces, and at the same time it creates an identity to each and every single part of the institute, which is very different from the other side. So, for instance, you walk out of the library, it's a different feeling. You walk out of the classroom, it's a different feeling. And then how do you connect all these with the kind of central spines that you need to have for circulation? And then we had to actually take care of the future expansion which was going to happen on the northwest side. So we needed to create a large pedestrian path through this building. So because of the nature of the site, that path had to go inclined, and this is the way we planned it. So what that does is actually further reduces the landscape space. So we started with something that was 50-60%, and by virtue of doing everything that the design brief mentioned, we've come down to about 31% in terms of the landscape space. So this is a series of how we started and where we ended. We started with 60%, and we finally came down to just a mere 31%. So we said, how do we increase the landscape space? So then we decided to do this. You take the building at the back another level up, and you take the building at the front to a level down, and you start from 0 and you go up 4 levels, and thereby you landscape actually the entire terrace starting from the ground level. So you get 70% of the site in a way that is landscape space. And then all of this landscape space can be used by the entire university, by the number of students that are on a daily basis, for events, for all sorts of things. And it is all stepped down towards the north, so it faces away from sunlight, and it will be usable for most days of the year. To reduce the heat gain, again here Indore again is a very hot city, and to reduce the gain we've used jali panels on all the perimeter of the building. So there is literally not a single space in the entire building that gets direct sunlight. Everything is indirect. It's by virtue of the courtyards, or it's by virtue from the screen walls on this tertiary, and this is the program breaking up and how it was done. So the ground floor, then the first floor, which is connected with the bridge across the main spine corridor that connects to the building at the back. Spill out terraces happening at every level, not just the ground and the top. And the building's program as it gradually steps back diagonally across the building. Now this is a series of sections as one experiences the space and the volume through the building. So when you walk in, that's section 1, you go a little further, section 2, and so forth. So it's the graphic itself of the section is indicative of how one would experience space within this building. Is constant state of flux. So you walk into something that is 30 feet high, you go into something that is 20 feet high, you go into something that is 14 feet high, and again you come back to something that is higher, something that is lower, and depending upon which part of the building you are in, you are constantly in this flux of different volumes, different heights, and visual connectivity across levels, and very interesting spaces that are interconnected. So this is a detail of the ground floor plan, where there is a really large cafeteria, and then as one goes up on the top, there's an auditorium on the left hand side and a large library space, and as one steps up there are classrooms. One very important thing is that this building actually is eventually supposed to be the administrative building. So we had to make a flexible plan. Finally, all the classrooms are going to be in the building that is beyond this. So the whole design was done in such a way that one is going to create these classrooms right now for the next 2 years, and after 2 years these classrooms will be taken to the building beyond, and all of these will be converted into administrative spaces. So the grid and the design had to be able to accommodate that kind of flexibility. So that's the circular stepped classrooms that they wanted on the top level, and the administrative areas right on the top. And this is the eventual terrace plan, completely landscaped. And these are sections through the site where all of these are naturally lit courtyards of different heights and different volumes. And the final building as it will be, with the open space and the landscape space stepping right from 0 up to 4 floors high, which is 22 meters high at the top. What this also does is that unlike most large university buildings, when you enter and you are hit by the magnitude of the building, when one enters at that point, you can see it clearly, the building does not overpower you. It gradually steps back from how you perceive it. So, it is not an overpowering building, it is very, very simple building, although it is very complicated in terms of how it is designed. And these are all the internal courtyards and the terraces and the courtyards that allow indirect sunlight into each one of the inner spaces. As one walks in from the main lobby, one goes through the central spine that is connecting to the classrooms at the back, the different volumes that one experiences throughout, that is the cafeteria. These are some of the courtyards which are in between the library and the classrooms. And on the right is the building as it is right now. In fact, these were 6 months old. The building has progressed still further and it is now getting complete. So, this brings me to the end of today's presentation. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, sir.